everyone, thanks for being with me on my little show. Now, I'm going to talk today in this particular discussion anyway about Senator Malcolm Roberts. Now, Mr. Roberts is a One Nation senator, which means he stands for all things that I don't stand for, as racist, his prejudice, his illogical, lacks any sense of reasonableness, any sense of empathy. He's just one of those dudes who you look at and you think, how in the hell did you get into the position that you're in? And clearly it is because there are a certain number of people in our community, a percentage of people that think he's okay. Well, he's not. And he has this YouTube channel, which has a number of subscribers, I hasten to add, so he's done pretty well out of it. Do wonder about whether he can monetise that given his Senate position, but who knows? And who cares? But in this particular discussion, he's put something on his website in relation to a Senate committee that he belongs to, and he clearly thinks that he was laying the heavy on the ABC in relation to a release that was put out on one of the socials, and is questioning them about that. Now, what I want you to watch for is how weak this man seems, because it's a nothing burger. It means absolutely nothing. It's full of crap. And he achieves nothing at all from this. There's 2 points he raises. One is about the social media issue at the ABC, and I think they explain, the guys from the ABC, Chief Executive, explains it quite well. And the other one is about the coronation and the Stan Grant involvement in the coronation. Not too sure now whether he actually mentioned Stan or not, but he does want to make an issue of it in terms of the amount of time that was spent on it. And the chief executive refers him to another bloke that's next to him, and this guy explains exactly what this was about in a way which I think eradicates any assumption that the ABC were doing anything that they should not be doing during the 8 hours, the boring, laborious 8 hours of the coronation. And the interesting thing about this is that Roberts admits that he didn't even watch it. So he's trying to pick out some issues and some problems which are really about the attacks that a lot of the right wing want to make on the national broadcaster. So here's what he has to say, and you can think about it and tell me whether you think that what he has to say has merit or not.
I've got further questions.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you. Before I start my questions, I have an apology. I made an error, Mr. Anderson. You did, in fact, reply to my question and notice last time about the curriculum, but you didn't state specifically from where you got it in the curriculum. So that's
okay. Certainly, Senator.
I actually think I must have a look at that thing. I don't know what it's referring to there, but it clearly would be worth looking at.
But you've undertaken to come back with that this time.
I have, and I still will.
Thank you. Now, I tabled a screenshot of a tweet from the ABC Media Watch Twitter account. It was in response to a tweet I made about...
Sorry, Senator Roberts, just to clarify, that wasn't tabled, it was circulated.
Oh, circulated. Okay, sorry.
Just to be
So, I love that bit. So he gets even the language to be used incorrect, and so the chair has to remind him, well, let's use the right language. It was circulated, it wasn't tabled, so table would make it an official part of the documents. But nevertheless, he stuffed up twice.
Thank you. It was made about a protest in front of Parliament House here, the Let Women Speak movement. Do you know what happened to that tweet? Why it was removed?
No, I do not, Senator.
It was deleted about a second after that screenshot was taken. Do you have any information on why it was deleted?
No, I don't, Senator.
Could we have that information, please?
I will investigate and respond to you.
Do you keep logs of tweets and deleted tweets?
We don't keep... We don't monitor people's personal use of social media because we don't take legal or editorial responsibility for it. That was a change that we made some time ago, which I've canvassed heavily here. So no, we don't keep a log of it. There's certainly records.
So I think the interesting thing here is he made a tweet. I haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it all that openly. But he made a tweet which someone from Media Watch responded to, and then decided that perhaps it was inappropriate, and they pulled it down. And somehow that's this guy's problem. He probably didn't like the idea that someone pulled down or made a comment, I guess, about a stupid tweet he made about a protest in the front of Parliament House,
When things
which I suspect was sovereign citizens, incidentally.
are raised to our attention and we do investigate and disciplinary action is taken, then yes, that is recorded.
This is not a personal account. It looks like it's a Media Watch account, at ABC Media Watch.
Yep, which as an official ABC account, again, I will investigate.
Okay, thank you. I'm just concerned that the ABC is sending tweets which could be considered antagonistic to a sitting senator and then deleting it like nothing happened. That doesn't bode well for accountability. If that screenshot wasn't taken and I couldn't table it, people would rightly question me for trying to talk about this with you now. Social media seems to be a real ongoing problem for the ABC, not just from your journalists, but even your official accounts. So what are you going to do to get this under control?
Senator,
Don't you love the way? Okay. Don't you love the way he sort of reads the question like is completely uninterested in it? No real enthusiasm, no sense that this is something I'm going to have a go at you at. I'm going to target you. I'm angry about it. None of that. No, it's sort of an emotionless experience, which makes you think that he's probably not all that committed to the idea around his tweet being attacked. But just that this is an opportunity to have a go at them, but it's kind of not invested, I guess.
again, vast majority of staff do the right thing. We have been getting it under control. People have been disciplined for this. For those people who have gone against the code and found to be in breach, they have had disciplinary action against them. We're now up to individuals that have been terminated from the ABC as a result of their personal use of social media. I do think, again, the vast majority, that's personal use of social media. This appears to be an official ABC social media account, subject to our ABC social media policy with regard to that, which we do take, if it is, we do take editorial responsibility for which we have very few problems, I will say, Senator. So I will investigate.
Good for you.
and come back to you.
Very few
It's
problems.
just been raised quite a bit, social media. Moving on to another issue, there have been
Right,
reports
so-
that the ABC...
So that went nowhere. The guy gave a reasonable response, and the senator says, "Well, okay, that's it. I'm not going to ask any further questions, any backup questions. I really don't know what the hell I'm talking about anyway. I was just aggrieved by it. End of story." And the guy gives a response that simply says, "Well, we'll investigate it, and these are our policies. Let's move on."
He has never received more complaints about a show than you did for the King's coronation coverage. Can you confirm that?
That is incorrect. We have received more complaints.
So I would suggest, Senator Roberts, that you do your due diligence and you do your research to make sure that you actually, when you're asking a question, you already know the answer. Because otherwise you look a little stupid.
Than that in the past. I would hasten to give examples because they're sometimes not great moments in ABC history, but they go back some way. It's certainly in recent times, it is one of the larger amount of complaints, yes.
What is the total number of complaints that you received on that?
I believe it's around 1,800 at the moment, of which I gave evidence earlier to say approximately 60 are editorial complaints being investigated by the Ombudsman, some complaints categorised in a different way, and of course some of it is outright racism.
So while I didn't watch the coronation, I'm just wondering...
So okay. So here he is criticising the ABC's session or broadcast of the coronation, and he didn't watch it. So he's picking up this notion that there are 1,800 complaints of which many of them were editorials, so people complain about, where did this sit, why did we do it, blah, blah, blah. But I would guarantee you, almost without having any information either, that many of these complaints were racist. And so the question should have been, how many of the 1,800 do you think were racist complaints? So we could bring it down to the content, which was an editorial content, and whether or not it was appropriate for something like this. But anyway, let's hear the explanation from the ABC, because I think this is quite valuable.
Why Australians interested in the coronation, interested in the pomp and ceremony, if that's what they want, who's arriving and all of the proceedings, etc., what a show it is. Turn on the ABC to watch the coronation and find inserted into that live coverage commentaries about Indigenous rights and the proposal for a voice to Parliament for Indigenous people. What was the aim and the thought process in structuring your coverage like that?
Senator, I'll defer to Mr Stevens, who wants to respond.
Senator, I know you said you didn't see the coverage, so I'm happy to give you a bit more information about what we did
like that.
cover.
You didn't
And
see
it
the
was
coverage.
8 hours of coverage over the course of the evening, from 4 p.m. onwards. The official ceremony itself started at 8 p.m. Sydney time, and so we had 4 hours of coverage leading into the ceremony proper starting. We used the BBC commentary for the actual formal proceedings of the event itself from 8 p.m. onwards. That was a concerted decision because we knew that the BBC would have access to information that we weren't privy to around the order of proceedings and the extra additional historical detail behind those order of proceedings. We obviously had a broad picture of what would happen when, however, not that level of detail that they had, and obviously they've got knowledge of individuals in the Abbey that we didn't have. And so for the course of the 4 hours leading into it commencing, we from time to time showed vision of what was unfolding in the lead-up. So 3 to 4 hours out, can you believe people were being led into the Abbey in terms of guests, and we were showing that visually, and there was music as well. And so the presenters did a really good job of trying to navigate saying what was unfolding with that vision. That's a key tenet of good TV, to say what's happening, but then to return to the discussions. We wanted to have 3 to 4 hours out of the ceremony itself starting.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I thank you for the explanation. It makes perfect sense, and what you're saying.
No, you don't. You don't have any frigging idea. The complaint that he wants to make is that it was inserted, because he started off the question by saying, well, people were discussing The Voice, and the question really should have been, do you think it's appropriate on an occasion like that to be discussing something around Indigenous affairs? The answer is yes, it is, but he doesn't have the gall, the knowledge, the know-how, the guts, the whatever it is, to be able to ask that particular type of question.
Saying about making good TV makes perfect sense, but it still comes in that some of the chatter around the presentation was dealing with things like the Indigenous rights and a voice proposal to Parliament, etc.
So,
is that appropriate?
So, Senator, for a portion of the coverage, for about 40 minutes, we had a really important discussion about our history, and we aired First Nations perspectives of that and colonisation, and their view and experience of the Crown in their lives. And that was 40 minutes of 8 hours of coverage, and actually...
And that's the point. It was only 40 minutes. Why are you making a big deal of it? I don't know.
A really important part and remit of the ABC, as you know, is to have discussions which are in the national interest, that reflect on history, that are factually based on history, and it's very, very important in our coverage of the news and major events that over the course of that coverage we have a diversity of perspectives. And so that was a 40-minute discussion for which there's been a lot of attention. However, we had a multitude of guests over the course of the 8 hours and people speaking to the events itself.
Okay. Do you still think your coverage was impartial that way?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now,
I love it.
before we finish,
Yes, it was.
What's my commitment to you to get you an understanding of why you're biased on climate change, for example? That's what I undertook to do?
You did. You undertook to provide evidence of non-fact-based reporting of climate change.
Sure. Thank you very much.
So then he finishes off. So instead of elaborating on the reason why he asked the question, because it has racist undertones, and because he's of One Nation and they are a racist organisation, let's be honest, he chooses to pivot to this issue around climate change, which is clearly an issue that he'd asked before, having a go at the ABC because they apparently are biased towards climate change, whereas he is a climate change denier. So the point I guess I wanted to make is that this was a nothing burger. He looks extremely weak when he makes these sort of presentations. I've seen other presentations in Senate committees where the senator really goes at somebody, particularly in relation to robo-debt and in relation to other organisations within the government. But he is soft. He's soft, but he makes a lot of noise about a whole host of other issues, immigration, Aboriginal issues, where he demonstrates his distinct biases. And so we need to be wary of that. I just wanted to play that video for you because it just tells us a lot about who this man is. And we should take probably, I don't know why I did, because I didn't do this, we should take as little notice of him as possible. So thanks for being with me, everyone. Look, make some comments below, and also could you please subscribe to my channel? That would be great, and I'd really appreciate it. So thanks for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.